Hey guys, Nima from the future here, and I just wanted to say that I didn't talk about the performance of Super Mario RPG, but I will tell you it was perfect. The game ran really well, had no issues at all, and it looked really good. All of that stuff I just wanted to get in here. Just to let you guys know, we had an internet issue in my neighborhood for like the last 2 to 3 days, so I'm on like borrowed time. I'm having to hurry up and get everything done, so I just kind of rushed through that, and I apologize for not talking about that more in depth in the actual video. But anyway, that's just my thoughts there. Oh, one last thing. I kept saying 1993, even though I know the game came out in 96. I just wanted to address it before anyone else does. So anyway, on with the video. So I finally beat Mario RPG, the remaster for the Switch. Never got a chance to play the original one, so I don't really have a lot to compare it to, but I'm definitely ready to give my thoughts on it and my review of the game. I'm Nima, let's talk about this game and if it's worth your money. But before I talk about this beloved gem, this game that pretty much everyone unanimously loves, I just want to say please hit that like and subscribe button before you hear my thoughts on the game. No, I'm kidding. It's not that bad, but part of me wonders if this game is kind of victim to the member berries, the nostalgia berries, that like good feeling you had and then attributing that to this game when you're thinking about the past. I don't know. This is one of those games that has been recommended to me over and over again. And also one of those games that when I'm talking to other gamers and I say, oh yeah, I've actually never played it, it's almost like record scratch, stop everything. You haven't played that game? Oh, you got to play it right now. It'll almost like it'll change your world or whatever. Now, I get why it was like that in 1993. I totally get that. In fact, a lot of the mechanics in the game, they're pretty much cutting edge when you go back into that time and thinking about the more linear story and even the graphics themselves, but really just a lot of the combat and especially like the quick time actions and things of that nature. They were cutting edge for like 93 or whenever the game came out. And to be fair, they actually really hold up. Now, for those of you who don't know about this game or never played it, haven't played the remaster yet, it is a turn-based combat RPG. Featuring everyone's favorite plumber, along with some other characters that you may not be familiar with. You definitely get like Peach in there and Bowser and some of those guys as well. But the crux of this game is that it's an RPG. It's turn-based. The combat is reminiscent of Final Fantasy, except for they had to add a little bit of action to it, and I think that was groundbreaking, and that changed the game in a lot of ways, because we actually got to see that same sort of thing implemented in Final Fantasy VIII later on, but basically, if you time button hit correctly, you can either defend really well, or your attack will have a critical to it, and so it's a really cool mechanic to the game, and definitely something that is used throughout now, and something that I really appreciate in games as well, because sometimes turn-based does get kind of, I don't know, just slow, monotonous. It is nice to have that in there to kind of shake things up. And again, I do appreciate that. As far as I'm aware, they introduced that mechanic into RPGs. It's definitely something that has become a staple in a lot of RPGs and something that is, like I said, appreciated. And just a quick run through of the story, I'm not going to go too deep into it because it's not very deep, but you play as Mario and essentially Peach is taken by Bowser. You go to get Peach back from Bowser, and then Bowser's castle is attacked by a giant sword. And you do learn that this sword is not the controller of the realm, if you will, and in fact there is a bad guy behind it, and essentially this evil mastermind is trying to collect these stars that turned out are wishes and use them to basically create a huge army to take over the Mushroom Kingdom and Mario's entire world. So you gotta collect these stars. There are 6, I believe 6 or 7 in total, and essentially go fight the bad guy. And that's really honestly the entire story. But the thing that I was most impressed with is just like everything else that comes into with Mario, Bowser really jumps off the screen. Like in the movie, Bowser was the best character. I don't care what anyone says, Bowser ruled. He offered a little bit of dynamics. He wasn't just one tier type character. And in this game, he's the same way. In fact, I think that's part of some of the great writing is that you actually get to see a different side of Bowser. Not just the fact that he's angry and he wants power and everything, but he's actually self-conscious about his castle being taken over. He wants to come off as a bad guy, but then he also kind of has to work with Mario. There's this dynamic that is pretty cool as it plays out, and definitely makes you wonder, how did Bowser become a bad guy after this? Like, after you played through this game, when did anyone ever think Bowser was a bad guy? Like, he really comes off as likable, I guess, and definitely somebody you can, like, kind of understand where he's at, and in a way, I'm curious, like, in the Mario universe, in the Mario world, how did they go back from being enemies? They never address that, but I get it. It's Mario. And I will say, as far as writing goes, the game is pretty funny. It does have some laugh out loud moments and some things that just kind of make you chuckle, as well as, I would say, a pretty good cast of characters. Some pretty well written characters and enough of a depth to it. Again, I know this is Mario, it's Nintendo, but there is a little bit of depth where you do see some characters go from bad to good, and we also fully learn about some other characters and their whole story and how it plays into this, and honestly, I think that was done really well, and in fact, I appreciated the fact that the game really was more linear than a lot of RPGs. It has its good and bad side about it. One of them is length, and I do think that that's something that is going to be an issue with a lot of people, especially because it is a Nintendo game, so most likely it's not going to come down in price very much, but I beat it in about 15 hours, and I really wasn't trying to speed run it or anything. It just ended up being the amount of time it took for me to beat the game. Now, I didn't fight the square boss, that like ultimate boss that is in that late game. I did not do that. I didn't unlock it, and there's probably plenty of things I didn't fully do, but I was able to beat the game without much of a problem. In fact, one thing that I also have to say is I never died. I never died once in the game. And again, I understand the line that they're trying to ride here. They want it to be kid friendly, yet they are also implementing RPGs, and it's one of those games I think that is kind of a good game to get your kids into RPGs with. But, you know, at the same time, as an adult, we kind of look back on some of these games and want to play them again, or for someone like me who just completely missed it, this is also an opportunity to check it out. But I've seen some real negative comments about the game, namely how short it is, how easy it is, so on and so forth, and I do think we have to look at it in a different light to understand that this is a remaster, not a remake. That doesn't matter, you know, because there is some issues with, well, there's not much more content. If you already own the original game, then you really don't need to buy this one. That might be true. I mean, I don't know if that's a fair assumption to make. Like, if somebody wants to buy the new one just to see remastered graphics and stuff, then let them, you know. But yeah, I would argue that case myself, that if you did own the original game and you played it and you're very familiar with it, this was not going to add much more than a new coat of paint. Although I think one of the things that people really do love about this game is what it evolved into and what other developers have taken from this game and created. You know, one thing that came out relatively recently that I can say you can definitely see the tie-ins is Sea of Stars. And honestly, if you compare this game to Sea of Stars, Mario RPG falls short. But that's not really the point, because you see, Mario RPG crawled so that Sea of Stars could run. And ultimately, I have to say that I just really enjoyed my time. Was it worth $60? I don't know. Probably not, honestly. Like, I feel like that 15 hours was maybe a little too expensive for what the game is. If there was a little bit more content, if there was, I don't know, just a little bit more length of the game. But then I understand where traditionalists would be upset that it wasn't a 10 out of 10 remake. So I do get all of that, but I would probably just be happy if the game would have came in at even $49.99. I think there would have been enough wiggle room there to be like, oh, okay, I get it. But the full $60 for a game that's about 15 to maybe 20 hours if you really want to extend it out. And I do think that there's a conversation to be had about the time and the content, but ultimately I did really like it. Now, if I was going to give this game a score, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I appreciated it. I enjoyed it. I understand why people love it, and I really did love it too. But I also understand some of the critiques that are coming out about it. But anyway, that's my thoughts about Super Mario RPG. Let me know what your thoughts are. Anything and everything else in the comment section is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.